Welcome to the Love Beyond Limits podcast, where we celebrate love, intimacy, and everything in between. I am Ameenah Asante.
And I'm Kyla Black.
And together,
we'll explore the realms of relationships, sexuality, and queer experiences.
Hey, girlfriend.
Hey, girlfriend.
We're doing it. We're doing it. Another fun podcast. And it is 0:30.
Another dark night. Dark night. But it's date night.
It is date night.
So it feels appropriate.
Apropos.
I was going to say that, but then I didn't know if I was going to use it in the right way.
Oh, Virgo.
I don't want to say it and be incorrect.
SATs, I know that trained you so well to not, take that risk and get, what was it, minus a quarter point.
So what do we do?
To talk about our long distance relationship and how in the world have we managed to pull this off for almost 2.5 years, which is crazy.
With children.
With children.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Give yourself one. Just pat that back.
I get excited when I think about how we've done it because I would say we have done it really, really well.
Yes,
really well.
Oh, you mean the long distance relationship?
Yes, the long distance relationship. That was cute. That was cute, 59.
Yeah, the setup. So, as we've mentioned at least once before, I'm in New York and Ameenah's in Michigan, which is about an 11-hour drive in between and many hundreds of miles. And we pretty much by winter 2022 to 2023, we have managed to see each other on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
And sometimes even more frequently in between. Every 2 to 3 weeks, it has happened a couple different times. And I really think it's only happened once, possibly twice, that it was a 6-week gap in between our visits. And I don't know about you, but when I tell people about how we've done it, they're always really impressed. And I don't know if it's impressive inherently, but, I think there must be a certain type of person who can manage a long distance relationship. And I don't actually think I ever in my life, I am not a type of person who would ever have chosen a long distance relationship.
Right.
I certainly would not have said I'm a person who could do it.
Yeah.
But context is everything. And I think part of what has enabled us to manage it is really how we started dating and what our lives were at that time and what our other relationships were at that time. And this actually made the best and most sense.
Yeah.
Not to mention there wasn't another option anyway.
Yeah.
But it also was it made sense and fit the lives we were living.
Yeah, and then I love that it's the opposite of the stereotypical lesbianic, situation that like we traded our U-Haul for the Camry and
a lot of miles and
a
points.
lot of miles. Yeah, girl.
I think we said this in one of our first podcasts when we were just talking about our queerness in general and our dating, but we started dating, and at that time we were both in other relationships, and so we had both opened up our relationships, and there was open relationship and non-monogamy. And so I was married, and my wife and I opened our relationship, and we each started dating a person, and my person was Ameenah, and her person is the person she's with now, actually. So that's something.
Yeah, and for me, I was dating someone prior to that relationship, the individual knew that I was what I called at the time polyamorous and just chose to step back into active polyamory and have more than her as a partner. And Kyla absolutely fit the bill.
Check. Yes, it was the first time for real for me that I was in an open relationship style. And I had been curious about and wanting to try non-monogamy, but it wasn't in the cards for an array of reasons. And just where, you know, she and I were in our relationship and the people we were meeting and the directions we were going in, it unfolded as it did. And side note, you are a little bit not in the center. I can see that. If you wanted to be more in the center, no. Right, so keep moving in that direction. Yep, now you're centered.
That's so
At
weird
least
because
in my view. Yeah.
it's not the center in my view. I've got, like, with my fingers, like, this is a space here between me and the side, and then this is a
Mhm.
space here for me and the side. So weird. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Actually, move a little bit the other way again. Okay, yep, good. Perfect. Yeah, so as Amina said, we started, huh?
It sounds like you called me Yamina.
I did not call you Yamina. Damn, if I didn't know your name after all this time, that's a bigger problem. Okay, Yamina. Disclaimer, it's not okay to call people not by their names.
Totally. Names are important.
Names are really important. I mean, that's the structure of our how we've been doing this long distance thing. And I have a young child, Amina has teenagers, and so we are stationed where we are for the foreseeable future. And we really needed to decide if this was something we wanted to do. And because I was where I was in my marriage at the time, I wasn't looking for a full blown everyday relationship, and neither were you. And it worked out to just be able to start building this connection, and we weren't going to run into each other anywhere. The only way we would ever see each other is by being super intentional and planful and looking ahead and thinking about when we could fit this into the lives we were already leading and the busyness and the relationships and all the other things going on.
Us. Okay. How have we kept being long distance sexy? And I don't mean sexy in the intimacy, physical connection, but like how has it worked out?
Are you asking me, or are you just throwing that out there for the general public? Is this a quiz? Yeah.
So the structure I think is really fun because somewhere around a couple months in, we started doing something that I adore so much, naming our weekends together, our time together, and
Mm.
like giving it a theme, giving it a name, categorizing it. And so when it came to planning our upcoming visits, like
Mm-hmm.
we had this additional like fantasy layer to it. I just curious of how the time together would unfold, and we get to give
Mm-hmm.
it a name and we'll store that information, and it's just fun to reflect on and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
that's been fun.
absolutely. Yeah, that part was so fun from the beginning. And actually, the fact that I don't remember which one of us started even having a conversation. Oh, great. I guess you know. Thank you for being the one to start the conversation of giving it a name, yeah, just like giving our weekends. And again, there was monthly basis. It was often for 2 nights, sometimes 3 nights, but 48 to 72 hours for the most part, right? And really giving our time an identity and its
Mm-hmm.
own entity. And it started just growing wings and naming them, numerating them. I just, it was so in line with really just, I think, highlighting things we have in common that we learned early on by doing that, of naming things, of categorizing
Mm-hmm.
things, of giving everything like private, not private, but just like private jokes. And
Mm-hmm.
I think really what stands out as I'm thinking out loud about it is that it meant as much to you as to me to really remember, to memorialize the time.
Love. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And experiencing that and us being able to spend time thinking, or we'll have the shared experience of the weekend and something will occur and we're like, that's the name. That's the name
Mhm.
of the weekend. And just so much fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and then we would start adding, oh, here are memorable quotes from the weekend. And
yeah.
then here are themes, and here's this, and here's that. But there would always just be a consolidated name. And we still reference things by the name or the numbers
hmm
of them. And it's really a fun way to track,
hmm
and some people don't have that need either, right? It's just they're so in the moment. And I think we are very much in the moment when we are together and
Definitely.
we're not living in the past at all. And I also love to go through our, shared notes of looking at all of our weekends that we've spent together and what we've named them, and then remembering. It's just such a good way to remember why we called them what we've named
hmm
them.
hmm
And like, oh yeah, because this thing happened on that weekend.
Yeah, what's your favorite name? I won't say favorite because there might be a name that's not.
We've talked about this recently, but in order for me to answer this question, I actually would need to pull up my notes.
Okay, just what's one that comes to, what is one name that comes to mind that you really enjoy?
Dogma Snowflake.
Dogma Snowflake was fun. The snowflake part was just this magical moment at like
5.
6 a.m. 5:50 a.m. I needed to move my car out of an Ann Arbor parking garage, and we both woke up and we moved the vehicle, and it's January. We look up and it's like these little snowflakes, perfect flurry, right next to this quaint coffee shop, brick and mortar, like gorgeous. The town is quiet. It's just me and her, perfect lighting over us. We share a kiss. It's so perfect. So, Dogma Snowflake, absolutely, it's a great one.
How about you?
I would say one of my favorites has been I won't make the sound, but it's OOOHHHH exclamation points.
God. In terms of the name, yeah, that was a really good name.
Yes, it's a great name. So, long story short, Kyla went to Penn State for undergrad. She was having a reunion thing with some former roommates and buddies, and the two of us went to hang out, and we went to
Never
Penn
again.
State, Penn State and University of Michigan game.
Football game.
And right, and football game, and in the stands, there was a man like a row away from us, but so close to us, just screaming the entire
Right to his
time.
skirt, just thinking about it.
I'm hot thinking about it and not in a good way. It was terrible. He screamed the whole game. Wild.
I mean, a lot of people did actually.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a chant, it's a thing.
Yeah. Compound
But
sound.
the person was just their volume
Yeah.
was I really almost went, Queens
Yeah.
on him and like took him out at the knees. I mean,
It was rough,
but
but great.
anyway, but great name, and we always get to remember and laugh and roll our eyes when we think
Yes.
about
I'll
that
probably like
experience.
insert the picture. So if you're just listening to this, you'll want to like look at the screen now because the picture is right here. And
Yeah,
we're so cute. With the smiles, don't let the smiles fool you. Yes, we're happy and in love and also have headaches because of
ready
this
to
guy.
go. I'm all done. I feel complete with my Penn State
Boom.
football experience. I have fully
Amazing.
checked that box all around. So you asked a really good question before,
Yeah, so I'll just
or
re-ask
now,
the
because
question.
it's going to be sequentially edited.
So what's been the secret sauce? How have we managed to keep our long distance relationship sexy, not necessarily in the physical intimacy sense, but the yummy stuff that has worked so well, in your opinion?
For me, I think that having our scheduled date nights have been pillars of our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We've probably started with once a week and then graduated to twice a week. And at some point, I requested a third, but that wasn't really able to happen for a long time. But having consistent, reliable times that I knew that we would be able to come together and hang out was really, really helpful to look forward to know that it was on both of our calendars and on our minds, and a commitment that we made.
Mm-hmm.
And that definitely is the first thing that stands out.
Yeah.
I would say that we are excellent banterers and flirtatious people in general.
Mm-hmm.
And our texts are just
Top notch.
really like top notch. Yeah, just always has been. Always
Mm-hmm.
has been.
Yeah, totally. Agreed. To the date night, I would also add what we do, like the quality of our date nights and how we choose to spend the time has been really great. It's amazing to have date night and know that whether you're in a good mood or not, like you can expect to be able to have just true connection. And
Mm-hmm.
it's felt like super safe and playful, and date nights can even be artistic where we're like doing our respective paintings or coloring or whatever and just being with each other. And so that's been really important.
Quite.
I think it is important to add that even in our 48-hour, 72-hour, it has progressively gotten a little longer. Some of these visits, the additional thing I want to add is we have this thing around time.
Time, yeah. So
This is
curious.
this is one of, I'm gonna just own it, one of the Pisces superpowers, just time.
Up
Just come,
pressing pause on time,
yeah, come into the vortex
stretching it
where,
out.
yes, where we can be together for, let's say, we arrive on a Friday at like 5 p.m. and by the next morning it feels like we've been together already for 2 days. It's just so full with
Yeah.
just our energy.
Yeah, I think too with that, it's evolved, of course, and how we fill our time when we spend the weekends together, of course, is different every time and it varies with what we do. But earlier on in the first, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months of getting together, there were a lot of activities planned often, right? So if
Hmm.
you were coming to New York, we'd be going to at least one, usually more than one show. We'd be
True.
going out, we'd go have a dinner, we'd have a meal. Like there was just like a lot of back-to-back things, and there'd be seeing family, it might be seeing a friend, it'd be going over there, it would really be, it'd be
Pack
so
it in.
full, right? And lively. It was great. I mean, it was beautiful. It still is. And so even by the end of a day, we often would look back on that was today?
Yeah.
We just did that thing today. I thought that was 3 days ago. Because
Hmm.
it's so full, doing things that we've already done, but doing them for the first time together is a new experience. It's experiencing something for the first time all over again and seeing it through someone else's eyes and having the experience of connection related to whatever activity we're doing.
Great.
Are there other ways you think that we keep it vibrant?
One thing I really enjoy is the spontaneous check ins. So, probably in this latter part of our relationship, we've been more apt to text and say, can you do a FaceTime here? Or someone just calls and just checks to see if someone's available to FaceTime, that type of thing. That's been a really, really fun addition,
Mm-hmm.
especially, just switches things up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm very grateful for technology, for
Mhm.
which people had long distance relationships, have always had long distance relationships, and wrote letters. And there are other ways that they stayed romantic and connected. And that must also be part of the time thing, actually, right? Because we don't have, we haven't had daily experiences of each other. throughout our whole relationship. I think we do more now, but I think earlier on we didn't talk every day.
No, we didn't.
There were probably, there started to be texts daily, but even the text, it wasn't full, plentiful all day,
Hmm.
right, communication, but it was like, okay, well, twice a week we'll get to talk.
Yeah.
And for me, right, in the beginning, especially, we're talking about, oh, how well we managed it, right? I mean, I didn't man, I was grateful for the setup because it was a good fit for my life.
Hmm.
And that was the capacity that worked, but I didn't like it because, as you referenced, I am a U-Haul lesbian, and that has always been my preference, whether I knew it or not, is to
Hmm.
dive all the way in and spend a crazy amount of time up front and always be
Yeah.
in constant communication and hang out all the time and all the things. And it was really hard to not have access to you every day
Hmm.
and to have to wait. Ugh, fucking waiting. Was not a fan, right? And it was good for me because again,
Hmm.
that's what was happening and that's what was needed. And so I didn't really have I don't like saying I didn't have a choice, but right, that was just the agreement of how it was set up
Hmm.
earlier on. And I think part of what has enabled us to manage it is because we had to have a lot of conversations of how to manage it
Hmm.
and how is this working for you?
Hmm.
What's working well? What should we keep doing? What's not working? What do we need more or less of or different? How do we need to adjust the cadence? And, right, I mean, you always seemed more cool, calm, and collected around, what our communication looked like and how often. And I was usually like, where are you?
Hmm.
I want more.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, especially when and this has happened more over the last few months, more so, I think. But when we depart and separate again and go back to our respective homes, I almost I hate my phone.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like when we're not, day to day normal, like this is my relationship. Like we talk, we text, we send photos, whatever, but everything's through the phone.
Hmm.
Right? And so it's like, there you are. I see you on my counter sitting in my phone, and there's my long distance relationship. And I just am elated about the 48 to 72 plus hours we get to spend where I don't have to be on my phone and I get to be in the relationship in person and 3D and I'm not looking and checking and even though I love being in contact, it's like I don't love that it's through this device
Yeah.
all the time. And so I think which I think is important, what's been helpful after we've had our weekends together is, more sending videos, right? Like, let's keep the visual,
Hmm.
let's hold on to that thread.
Agreed. Is there anything about our long distance relationship that you would change?
At this point, no. I think, again, or like probably the first year or 6 to 8, I don't know, 6 to 12 months of it, I wanted to change so many things. So many things. So many things felt so hard.
Yeah.
So much attachment things and separation and like, oh God, like the triggers, the heartache, really.
The horror.
The horror. Yes, the like beautiful horror of the distance was really
Yeah.
hard. And even at its hardest, I still felt grateful that that's what it was because
Hmm.
it wouldn't have been doable anyway. So I liked that there wasn't a choice to just see you every day, actually,
Yeah.
because I didn't have the capacity to see you every day.
Right. And vice versa.
And vice versa, right? That wasn't available to us. So I think all the ways in which we've adjusted and tweaked and shifted how we stay in touch, how we see each other, how we're using technology, how we commit to planning when we see each other, fitting it in, integrating our kids slowly into the
Hmm.
mix, right? I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah. And speaking of which, we're just a couple days out from seeing each other with the kiddos. And I will say, by the time this particular podcast airs, it will have already happened. So I'm going to go ahead and set that intention. It was amazing. Here's the photo.
Oh my God, everyone got along swimmingly.
Incredible. It was
Great moods, great attitudes,
beautiful.
down for all the things, just
Mhm.
mwah, connection.
Yes, I love it. No, I don't have anything that I think doesn't work. The amount of intentionality that we had going forward and crafting our relationship just
Hmm.
laid this beautiful foundation for something that is really, really special. Like every time someone asks and I mention, my girlfriend lives in New York and I'm in Michigan, they're just perplexed. Like, how is that even possible? I'm sure it must be so hard. And I'm like, yeah, we'd love to be together more often. However, it works really well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I will say too that part of, and maybe this was always the case, but part of what has made it easier is that I believe this is not a forever
Correct.
setup, right? And so, you know, I was just gonna make an analogy to quarantine and COVID time, which is not totally like apt. It's not apples to apples here. But, do we all remember in COVID early days and we're like, oh my God, how long is this gonna go
Hmm.
on for? And if any of us knew that it was gonna be 1 year or even this is going to end in 18 months and we'll all go back to the lives we knew or some version of them, I think there would have been so much less anxiety and fear and panic and all the things because however hard it would have been to stay quarantined and contained, we know there was an end point, right? But the not knowing made it that much harder, right? And so I have had a similar experience here of yeah, the times it's hard or particularly after we see each other and it's like, "Oh God, it's so good."
Yeah.
Right? I wish we could have this every weekend or every other weekend or something.
Hmm.
Wish we could just pop over on a Wednesday night in person, have our date nights in person,
Totally.
right? Is that one day I don't think will be long distance. And so, it makes this time ever more sweeter and we're building the foundation.
Hmm.
And that's really
Agree.
special. I had another thought in there. Oh, something we had touched upon about how long distance relationships can invite growth and independence in a unique way.
Hmm. Absolutely. So I have found that for me, the way that I work best, the way that I move best is really having the time and the space and large amounts of time to really be and sit in what I call my ness and having that time to, I'm a small business owner, I'm an entrepreneur, so still building aspects of my business in the way that I want them is really sacred. And I know for a fact, because of the way that I love, especially in person, I would get nothing done. Like if I was still in this building stage and in a relationship with Kyla in person, I mean, I just would not get as much done. And I'm really grateful to be able to have the time and the space to actually think like a rational individual creating something versus completely engulfed in my relationship. And I will say, this will be for another conversation when we talk about human design. There's absolutely a reason for that and what I know to be true about her and I and human design. But for this podcast, just know that the independent parts of us is very helpful to watch it grow and flourish. And
Yeah.
it's been nice to see that for you too. As you mentioned at the beginning of our relationship, you wanted that closeness and all of that. And of course, in many ways, so did I. In these latter years, watching you grow into your own has been really beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. I think you were already quite comfortable in in your own
Yes.
space and your aloneness. And that was
Yes.
part of my difficulty early on was all the aloneness you seemed to need. And I was ready to label you as avoidant attachment because I knew I had anxious attachment. And so that just made sense.
But then you learned what?
Well, then well, I mean, I learned that I was more right than wrong about my own anxious attachment.
Uh-huh.
But
Uh-huh.
that, I don't know, I still feel like you were a little avoidant, but that's fine. That's for another conversation.
Please.
No,
Can't wait.
I learned that part of, again, human design is the bigness of alone time and
Mm-hmm.
how much of a core need it is for you. And I learned that it wasn't personal to me. You did not want to be with me. You wanted to be with you, which is a beautiful thing,
Yes, and
right?
a nice distinction.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's just it's a part of you, right? And it's a part of,
Mm-hmm.
part of the long distance is that Amina loves to frickin' drive.
Yeah,
And
girl.
you will drive here blissfully for 12 hours because you get to have 11, 12 hours in the car
Mm.
to think and ideate and work in the ways you work and all the things. And amazing.
It's
Bravo.
so fun. It's so fun.
It's for you. Yes.
Have at it. Feel free.
Enjoy. I'm so glad that's available for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's great. There's so much I have learned about myself around this in particular, right, throughout our relationship. Partially, I mean, it's all connected, right? I'm coming out of a marriage where and how I've always been in relationships is I really always prioritize time with my partner and want that time with my partner. And so I would always really outside of work, and then of course parenting is the whole other thing, but outside of my job, I have historically preferred to just have all the rest of my free time be spent with my partner. And that could include other people, family and friends, and going out and doing things, but nonetheless being with my person.
Mm-hmm.
And I also definitely come from an enmeshed family system where the connections are strong and separations are hard. And also divorce, which means, again, separations are hard and reconnection can sometimes also be hard, but then the connection's really tight and nobody wants to go anywhere. And I have always been a person who had interests and things I like to do, but I really never perfected the be in a relationship because I always lived with the person I was in a relationship with.
U-Haul.
Cha-ching, you should put a little U-Haul thing. And, to have my person be over there and the idea of me being over here doing my own thing, like I understood it conceptually, but it was hard for me because if I'm here and you're there, like I just want to talk to you,
Mm-hmm.
right? But my partner, my ex, has always been and still is incredibly adept at, like, she's so many hobbies, and she's always had so many hobbies, and she was always really good at making time for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't feel like she didn't have time for me. I was always really more envious that that it was more integrated for her, right? And I think that COVID prepared me because COVID really was, oh, life is different. There's nowhere to go and nothing to do outside of my house, so I have to find some stuff to do, right? And I remembered that I used to have things I like to do and started doing those things again, which is great. But yeah, I think especially earlier on when you could only talk to me twice a week. I'm not still holding on to that, I swear. Right? On my off nights, I was like, oh, okay, so what am I going to do? Right? And also just getting used to being apart from, my previous partner too. And how am I going to occupy myself?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's really great for someone who is a recovering enmeshed person to be able to individuate and start to find enjoyment. At 45 years old, I finally enjoy my alone time. But it took my whole life.
Yeah.
I always just preferred being around people.
And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. And then it took those years for you to arrive here. My journey for aloneness is definitely ingrained in who I am and my design. And also, it was my home.
Right, you didn't have a choice.
Yeah, I didn't have a choice, and I definitely think I would have enjoyed the the close-knit family, arc of my story much more than Ameenah alone through all of these different stages and ways.
You came to find your comfort and peace in it because you
Hmm.
kind of were thrust into it without a choice per se.
Yeah,
And then you
definitely.
found your way in it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else we want to share about? Although I wouldn't necessarily recommend long distance relationships to people, I think that we have cracked the code on what feels amazing to us and for us. That being super intentional about the design of your relationship long distance makes all the difference in the world. And so much of that architecture, so to speak, I've learned from you just in the way that you naturally are. And, like I'd say you provided this beautiful container in how things can work for our relationship. And I may or may not have filled it in with the color and the emotion and the other things, but we both hold.
I'm pretty sure I brought plenty of emotion early on. It might not have been the kind you enjoyed or that I enjoyed, but it was definitely emotional.
Oh my goodness. Yes, it's all it's you, baby. Heaps and heaps. Goodness. Yeah, this
Yeah.
has been fun. I appreciate this conversation and being able to reflect on what has worked.
Yeah, and where it's been challenging and yeah, I mean, I also wouldn't recommend long distance relationships, although I actually think for people who tend toward the enmeshed and have a
Hmm.
hard time individuating, this is a really educational
Hmm.
way of being in a relationship because y y you got to be on your own.
Yeah.
And
It's
while
like
that doesn't have to
relationship.
be a
Yeah.
goal of like, oh, I've succeeded in life because I can be by myself,
Hmm.
I think that I feel like a fuller, more integrated person
Hmm.
because I can be a person in both in relationship and out of relationship at any
Hmm.
given point. And, it's growth.
Indeed.
Cheers to our growth and ongoing growth and clarity.
Yeah, I see it like relationship sleepaway camp.
Relationship.
Like you've signed up for X amount of time, your parent has dropped you off, and you're in it. Like you're there. That's what you signed up for, and so you gotta deal with your homesickness and all of it. So
Yes, this has been a great opportunity to reflect.
agreed. Well, thank you, girlfriend.
Thank you, girlfriend. I'm super excited to see you in 3D. For
Yes,
just a few days and set my phone down.
and for the other side of the podcast, because they will have seen it afterwards. It
Mm.
was wonderful to have seen you and to
Oh
spend the
yeah, I'm
time.
looking forward to it, and it was so great. And I can't wait to see you soon again,
Both
both
and.
and before and after.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks for joining us on the Love Beyond Limits podcast. If you enjoyed our conversation, please feel free to subscribe and stay tuned for more episodes.
Be sure to follow us and join us next time.
I might do, and I have to pay.
Okay, we gotta do it. We gotta do it. Be sure to follow us and join us next time as we continue to break boundaries and celebrate love in all its forms.